Today in Harvard Square, we're visiting a site associated with Ruby Sales. Ruby Sales was born in Alabama and grew up in Georgia during the Civil Rights Movement. We won't tell you how old she is, as she's still alive and working for human rights. When Martin Luther King called for a march from Selma to Montgomery, registering disenfranchised voters, a teenage Ruby rose to the call. A particularly violent and terrifying area of Alabama was Lowndes County. A small town called Fort Deposit's black residents had asked the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, to come to their aid in helping find some justice for the treatment of their sharecropping parents in the town. Although violence had become extensively recorded in the county, 30 volunteers overcame their fear and organized a protest. The 17-year-old Ruby Sales would be in this group. They were almost immediately arrested and taken in a garbage truck to the county jail in Haynesville, Alabama. After days of being crammed into cells without air conditioning, being fed poorly, denied access to bathing, and threatened periodically with being raped, they were inexplicably released without bail or justification and sent into the streets with no transportation. The day was blisteringly hot. Ruby, along with a friend, a white Catholic priest, and Jonathan Daniels, a white Episcopal minister in training, decided to find a place to buy a cold Coke. As they approached Varner's cash store, a man named Tom Coleman saw them coming. He had been deputized by the sheriff to keep these protesters out of the area, and when they opened the door to the store, he announced that he would blow the group's brains out. As he raised his shotgun and aimed at Ruby, Jonathan Daniels pulled her out of the way and took the full blast to his chest. He died instantly. He was 26. It was his mother's birthday. As the other three ran, Father Morrisroe, the Catholic priest, was shot in the back. Ruby and her friend Joyce would escape with their lives, but would carry the trauma forever. For months afterwards, Ruby could not even speak. She resolved to overcome the death threats and her own trauma to testify against Tom Coleman at the murder trial. A jury of 12 white men were selected and appeared to have ignored Ruby's testimony. Tom Coleman was found not guilty of any crime. He would say in an interview just a year later, "I'd shoot them both again." Instead of becoming bitter, Ruby came to Cambridge, the seminary that Jonathan Daniels had attended. The Episcopal Divinity School became her place of study, and once ordained, she began a life of activism and social justice through the church. In 2001, Ruby Sales founded the Spirit House, an organization dedicated to combating social injustice and systemic racism. She has played a crucial part in the rise of Black Lives Matter and bridged the 1960s civil rights movement with today's continuing struggle. Few people living today have borne as much of the sacrifice or have contributed as much of a voice to social justice as Ms. Sales.